the numbers are so low, it's just disheartening. Really low damage, but it's got a huge level requirement reduced, and that's an important thing to note for weapons. For people that want to power level their tunes, now that the huge XP bonuses for quest turn-ins and waterfalling quests doesn't work anymore. This has got dexterity for the monk, and it's got a huge level requirement reduced. Going from 50 to 60 can be a bit of a chore, and so 537 DPS is nothing to scoff at when you're level 50. So that has definite potential. The problem is with these low level requirements is you're generally only going to find customers that are leveling an alt, and they already know to look for these sort of things. New players don't necessarily know to filter for reduced level requirement in the auction house to look for these sort of buys. That problem is slowly solving itself the further we get into the lifespan of Diablo, where most players have at least leveled one tune to 60. So me being one of the examples, being slow to get here. So, but I had a bunch of other things keeping me busy the last month or two. So, okay, so really bad numbers on a one hand, and it's just not going to cut it even with a socket. Please feel free to ask questions on the video. It's pretty scattered the way I'm talking about things here, but I want there to be a real life example with an item whenever I bring up a topic. So horrible numbers, no reason to even discuss that bow. Again, horrible numbers, and there's no good affixes to speak of. Close to decent numbers, but there's no saving grace in terms of the affixes. Do not get discouraged. Huge majority of stuff you ID is going to be worthless, but you only need a couple of them to be worthwhile. So this is pretty decent. It's got a huge amount of dexterity and vitality and some natural crit damage, but the numbers are just so low. Too low to worry about. Sorry, I'm probably moving on a little bit too quick from these. So it's got a ton of strength, but it's a monk weapon, so that's irrelevant. And it's got a lot of dexterity. It's got a nice dexterity roll, but if this had a reduced level requirement, it might be worthwhile. So this is decent initial numbers. Like the armor's nice, the chance to block is nice, and it's got resist all. But then it's got a demon hunter ability. So I'm gonna keep a couple of these shields because I'm curious when I go look things up where those are gonna stack up. Horrible dagger. You've got competing primary stats and nothing offensive. Horrible numbers and some vitality. Horrible. You know when you say words so many times in a row that it starts to lose meaning in your mind? Horrible kind of sounds like it's not a word for me anymore. How often I say it in this game. So back to these pants for a second. It's got a really nice high armor roll, which would be decent as a tacked on, like a final little throwaway affix for something with a primary stat, vitality, and resist all, where somebody is looking at getting kind of a defensive piece, and then that 343 armor is roughly another 34 resist all in terms of the damage that it'll be preventing. And if you stack that on top of like a 65 resist all, you're getting close to 100 resist all just in terms of a different way to view that mitigation. So something to keep in mind. Armor is not a throwaway stat depending upon what the rest of the stats are on the piece. because if you've got an offensive piece and there's some armor on it, generally the people interested in buying that piece aren't going to care about the armor. But if it's already a defensive piece and you're tacking on a little bit of armor or a little bit of strength, and you're a wizard and you're going for like a wizard tank build, basically my point is you really need to be aware of what the popular builds are for all 5 classes, so that you can really understand what's going to sell. And hopefully this video and some others are going to start to open that up. So 285 on a level 62 two-hander. Pretty funny. And because I said that was funny, we get another one right in a row. And instead of life on hit, it's life on kill, just for one final little twist of the knife in our back. Low numbers, 18% damage increase. It's just really stingy. That's just stingy. Really low life on hit, excuse me, and nothing. Nothing again, really low. So I'm looking for a minimum of 700 for a one hand if it's got some really wonderful affixes, and then kind of a minimum of maybe 850 to 900 if it's got you know, maybe a primary stat or maybe some crit damage. If it's got very low affixes, if it's got nothing to really juice it up, then I need a minimum of 4 digits for a one-hander to even consider trying to sell it, meaning 1,000 or above. If it's a two-hander, I'm looking for 1,000 or above with bad, with really good affixes, and like 1,100 with moderate affixes, and 1,200 or up with good affixes, or no good affixes. Excuse me. They're opposite. They're polarized sliding scales, inverted. As the weapon DPS goes up, you can afford to have less offensive affixes on your weapon that will maintain the value and your ability to sell it. Okay, so we got a couple of things there on the ground that can get us a little. One more thing, get us a little bit more money, but no real gems yet. 826 with some attack speed. Crap.
I worked my hands to the bone to bring you these fine goods.
Okay, strength, intelligence, life. Pretty horrible. You've got thorns, which, you know, maybe there's a thorns barb that's interested in something, but you're going to want a lot of vitality and some better offensive stats than that. The 10% life is pretty decent, but it's devoid of anything else really important. So got quite a few dark blades in here. Are they all level 63? 63, 63, yep. So 500, worthless. It's got a huge vitality roll, but pretty pointless otherwise. Horrible shield. Even I know that. So we've got our 4 digits on our two-hander. However, we've got nothing else of value. There's a chance to stun, but really that's just a cherry on top for an already good item that might differentiate between somebody buying 2 really equivalent weapons in the auction house, and that might just tip the scales in your item's favor. But it does nothing for a buyer's decision when it's the only thing on the item. Really low, worthless. One little thing to note is there's one opportunity for low weapon DPS to be acceptable for like a dual wielding barbarian that wants a very high life on hit. So maybe if you've got crit damage plus a socket, or really high life on hit, you have an opportunity to make that weapon become valuable as a offhander for a barbarian. But weapons can go up to 9 something for life on hit, so you're really looking for a high number. 693 is just not going to cut it because the affixes are negligible. Alright, it's got a socket and magic find, and here's a nice really nice thing. It's got percent life, which is going to be fairly viable, and then it's got your choice of primary affix, and generally, like I said before, if it's got competing primary affixes, intelligence, strength, or dexterity, that can be a bad thing. However, with gold find or magic find items, where any sort of offensive or defensive stats are merely a bonus, that's actually going to help you because it's going to double or triple your customer base. Now, not only are you potentially selling to barbarians, but you're also selling to potentially demon hunters and monks for a magic find gear. So it's got your primary, your choice of primaries. It's got a vitality, in essence, and then it's got your socket plus a magic find. So we'd be putting a, let's just do this right now. We'll be putting a magic find gem, the topaz, and I'll probably make a bigger one here. Buy some gems and put a bigger one in, because 17. If I did a 23% gem, I'll price it first before I put an expensive gem in. But if it's, I'll determine if it's worth it. A 23% gem would hit that 40 number. So if people are searching, or they're filtering out for at least 40% magic find on a helm, then it'll be visible. I would hope that most people are a little smarter than that, and they're maybe searching for 35, because a lot of people will just put cheap gems when they're trying to sell an item. So this is definitely something to hang on to, he says as he throws it on the ground. Low numbers and nothing on the affixes really saves it. Strength and intelligence, what a waste. 260 on the crossbow. So you've got a nice vitality roll, you've got crit chance, and you've got your choice of dexterity or intelligence. Unfortunately, there's no resist all, so you're only looking at a primary, vitality, and crit chance. So you're only got three affixes that are worth anything on this piece out of 5, which is probably not going to cut it, but I might get a really low sale out of it for a fresh 60. But really, I'm missing that resist all here to make it worthwhile. Really low rolls on everything, so it's just not going to cut it, and one socket is not going to be enough to flesh out one of those stats. Nothing great. Horrible. Horrible. It's got a really high dexterity roll when you consider the fact that a 52 can wear it, but with nothing else on it to speak of, it's irrelevant. Natural crit damage and some whirlwind crit, but there's no socket and the numbers are very low. Nothing great. Horrible. You really want to see huge numbers for primary and vitality on a chest or a pants, especially because of the availability of sockets. So this is fairly worthless. You get no primary stats and 2 throwaway affixes on of the poison resist and the health globes.